Okay, let's talk about the different investment options you have with all of your retirement accounts, such as a 401k, IRA, solo 401k, and so forth. So typically, most retirement accounts limit the kinds of assets you can invest in. Normally, they're limited to either ETFs, stocks, or bonds, but sometimes you can set up your retirement account to invest in alternative assets such as startups, crypto, real estate, and other such transactions. So it really depends what type of account you have. So let's start with the most basic type. If you have an employer-sponsored 401k, this typically limits you to a handful of mutual funds. You normally get a selection of somewhere between 8 to 12 mutual funds, and you can choose to put your entire employer-sponsored 401k into the same mutual fund in your account. If the company you work for is a public company, you also frequently have the option to take your 401k and put it inside your own company's stock, but it's very, very difficult to take an employer-sponsored 401k and invest in individual stocks that are not your company or any kind of an alternative asset. So employer-sponsored 401ks are amongst the most limiting type of retirement accounts when it comes to your investment options. With an IRA, on the other hand, or an individual retirement account, you typically can choose from many more investment options, including single stocks of companies. You generally can choose any publicly traded ETF and have ultimately far more options about how your dollars get invested. However, remember, the downside of an IRA is it's much harder to get substantial amounts of money in since it has much lower annual limits. With that said, most of the mainstream IRA providers still don't let you invest in alternative assets like cryptocurrencies or startups or real estate, and for that you may have to look into an alternative IRA provider or potentially go with a slightly lesser known option. But even then, if you ultimately want full control to be able to invest in pretty much any asset, you likely want to go with a solo 401k if you are an eligible business owner. With a solo 401k, the cool thing is you are the trustee of your own plan. It means you have full checkbook control, which allows you to invest in almost any asset class. As long as what you're investing in is not a prohibited transaction, and we'll share more about that later, you can invest in individual stocks, you can invest in ETFs, but you can also invest in a bunch of alternative investments, such as an investment property or cryptocurrency or a startup. It's really the most powerful account if you want the flexibility to invest in anything. The one thing you should be careful of though is when you choose a solo 401k provider is ensuring that they actually give you checkbook control and allow you to invest in all of the asset classes you're likely to be interested in. Just because a solo 401k legally allows you to invest in everything doesn't necessarily mean every single provider supports it. So if that's important to you, it's definitely something to look into before you decide to create one. For instance, a lot of big banks and brokerages let you set up a solo 401k, but they limit what you can actually invest in. For instance, if you set up a solo 401k through Vanguard, you can only invest in Vanguard funds. And similarly, lots of other brokerages that support 401ks do not let you invest in alternative assets. So, hope that was helpful. To quickly recap, employer-sponsored 401k has the fewest investment options. An IRA, especially self-directed, lets you invest in many more things, while a solo 401k lets you invest in almost any asset under the sun.